Solar panels and wind turbines share an engineering vulnerability. They only work when the weather cooperates. When the sun sets or the wind dies down, the power supply drops to zero. This physical reality creates a serious dilemma for Bangladesh. As domestic natural gas reserves run dry, the country needs a new way to power dense, heavily populated centers like Dhaka, which maintain a staggering, constant baseline of electricity demand. Historically, countries built isolated power grids. In this setup, a national energy supply has to perfectly match local consumption, second by second. If millions of people turn on their air conditioners at the exact same time, a local power plant has to burn extra fuel to meet that specific spike. Relying entirely on an isolated grid makes a massive green energy transition mathematically impossible. Without constant, controllable fossil fuels, an isolated green grid is entirely at the mercy of the weather, guaranteeing massive supply gaps and inevitable blackouts. Engineers are proposing a macro solution to bypass local weather constraints, the Asian Grid Network, and its broader framework, One Sun, One World, One Grid. The logic is entirely geographical. By connecting national electricity grids across millions of square kilometers, you bypass local weather systems. Even if it's dark in one time zone, the sun is always shining somewhere else on the network, providing a continuous flow of power. Geography hands Bangladesh a unique advantage here. Sitting directly between the South Asian mainland and the Southeast Asian grid, the country is naturally positioned to act as a mega-hub for this continental energy trade. But plugging a single nation into a high-voltage, continent-sized machine carries massive risks. Synchronizing power across borders means a single technical fault in one country can rapidly cascade through the transmission lines, triggering multinational blackouts. Moving electricity thousands of miles without losing most of it to heat requires specific hardware, ultra-high voltage alternating and direct current transmission lines. These heavy-duty cables form the physical backbone of the supergrid. Instead of building millions of expensive chemical batteries to store energy, engineers use this hardware to take advantage of South Asia's specific climate patterns, a concept known as seasonal complementarity. Bangladesh faces its absolute highest electricity demand during the hot summer months. Right at that same time, neighboring Nepal and Bhutan experience heavy monsoon rains, generating a massive surplus of hydroelectric power from their overflowing rivers. This is already a physical reality. Bangladesh connects to India through the 400 kilovolt Baharampur-Baramara line, supported by specialized 500 megawatt high-voltage direct current terminals that safely bridge the two national systems. Right now, those cables are actively pulling in 1,160 megawatts of electricity from India and another 40 megawatts of hydropower routed directly from Nepal. By moving surplus power from where it's generated to where it's needed across large geographical distances, this hardware network acts as a giant virtual battery, successfully balancing the region's green energy loads without requiring a single lithium-ion cell. You cannot, however, simply plug a massive foreign hydroelectric dam into Dhaka's local grid. The sheer volume of raw electricity would overwhelm the older infrastructure and blow the domestic system apart. To safely absorb that power, Bangladesh is implementing smart grid software upgrades backed by the World Bank. This includes automated dispatch programs and advanced SCADA systems, specialized software that monitors and controls the physical grid equipment in real time. Operating an interconnected grid requires incredibly strict regional frequency control. Every country's power has to pulse at the exact same rhythm. If hackers breach the system or a technical glitch occurs, a fault in a single breached node rapidly propagates outward, taking down neighboring grids. This text from Bangladesh Power System Master Plan outlines the strict policy target for this software integration challenge. The government anticipates importing up to 9,000 megawatts of cross-border energy by 2041. Laying thousands of miles of heavy transmission cables is entirely useless unless a nation also engineers the sophisticated software required to dynamically process and balance those massive new power loads the millisecond they cross the border. The hardest engineering challenges on this project aren't physical, they are geopolitical. Right now, almost all of Bangladesh's grid interconnections route through India, relying heavily on it as the central transit hub. This creates a direct strategic vulnerability. Any policy shift in India's domestic energy strategy or a sudden change in their pricing structures can immediately threaten the cost and stability of Bangladesh's power supply. Making the grid work requires intense diplomatic engineering. Leaders across the region have to negotiate precise wheeling charges, essentially tolls for moving electricity, harmonize their grid codes, and agree on complex cost sharing across borders. As seen in this text analyzing regional energy initiatives, there is a massive financial incentive to finalize these treaties. Optimizing multinational trade could save Bangladesh, India, and Nepal $17 billion in unnecessary capital expenditures. In the end, political friction, border disputes, and negotiating tariffs present far greater resistance to operating the virtual battery than any physical resistance found inside the transmission wires. Successfully navigating these geopolitical hurdles and finishing the internal grid upgrades changes the fundamental math of the country's power supply. Instead of a nation constrained by dwindling natural gas reserves, Bangladesh becomes an active, green-powered transit node, moving pulsing streams of energy back and forth to bridge South Asia and Southeast Asia. Addressing climate change requires looking past individual solar farms toward the infrastructure that connects them. It demands a power grid that synchronizes generation across entire continents. For Bangladesh to ensure its long-term economic survival and energy security, it has to successfully engineer its way into that